the yows to the nose, oh, the moor and the heather grows, call them o'er the bonny rose, my bonny dearie. As I get down a Clun side, there I spied a shepherd lad, row lassie in his plaid, and her his dearie. Yearly gowns and ribbons meet, calf leather shin upon your feet. If in my arms you lie and sleep, ye shall be my dearie. I'm no brought up in a sick school, my shepherd lad, they play the fool, and all the day they sit and do, when nobody to see me. Call the yows to the nose, call them o'er on the heather grows, call them o'er the bonny rose, my bonny dearie. Fields stand by what you've said, how gone were ye, my shepherd lad, and ye may row me in your plaid, and call me your dearie. While waters wimple to the sea, while day rocks in the lift sea, till clay called death shall blend my ear, ye shall be my dearie. Call the yows to the nose, call them o'er on the heather grows, call them o'er the bonny rose, my bonny dearie.
Good evening. Welcome back to Roslin Court. We've got a really different evening this evening. Tonight is a celebration of the works of Robert Burns. We've got Hector Gilchrist, who's going to be joining us by experiment. And it's going to be a very different evening from what you're used to watching here, because some of it is he's recorded already, because he couldn't actually travel here. Although he has had both of the injections, he can't travel because of COVID restrictions. So we've moved heaven and earth, and mainly Roger has moved heaven and earth, actually. He's been working all week editing and putting this together. So either it's going to be absolutely spectacular, or it's a bit of a car crash, and either way, it's always good fun to look at, isn't it? So Robert Burns, he was a poet, a lover, a farmer, latterly a taxman, a lover, husband, lover and father. Yeah, he collected poems and songs and put poetry to music. His life was pretty much stymied in his social pursuits by the lack of contraception in the 18th century. Hector Gilchrist is joining us in a little minute, but first of all, I'm going to give us a little bit. I'm going to set the tone, really, by singing a song that is pretty much pure filth. Yeah. 'Twas on a Monday morning, right early in the year, when Charlie came to our house, a young chandelier. Oh, Charlie is my darling, my darling, my darling. Charlie is my darling, the young chevalier. As he was walking round the streets, the city for to view, 'twas there he saw a bonny lass, the window peeking through. Oh, Charlie is my darling, my darling, my darling. Charlie is my darling, the young chevalier. So quickly he ran up the stairs and twirling at the pin. And who is there but her herself to let the laddie in? Oh, Charlie is my darling, my darling, my darling. Charlie is my darling, the young chevalier. It's up yon heathery mountains and down yon scraggy dell. We dare not go milking for Charlie and his men. Oh, Charlie is my darling, my darling, my darling. Charlie is my darling, the young chevalier. He sat his Jenny on his knee, all in his Highland dress. For well he knows just what to do to please a Highland lass. Oh, Charlie is my darling, my darling, my darling. Charlie is my darling, the young chevalier. Charlie is my darling, my darling, my darling. Charlie is my darling, the young chevalier. Okay, now Hector's going to be giving you snatches of information in between his songs. He does have a very long lecture, which in a 2-hour live stream would have been wonderful, wonderful. But I'm afraid, Hector, we've had to cut it up a bit and fit it in so that we can get all your lovely songs in. So I hope you approve of what we've done. We also have a haggis, which we're going to pipe in. We have a piper, also not here, but we have a piper. And my sister Sue is joining us from Oxford with her bagpipes, which is rather wonderful. Do you have haggis this evening? If you have, let us know on the social media. We have the raffle. The raffle is one of Hector's CDs, Hector and Liz Thompson, which he has donated. Thank you. And also, we've run out of emergency toilet roll, but we do have some lettered toilet roll, and we will try to match it with your name if you win it, okay? This is from Who Gives a Crap, which is a wonderful company that donates half its profits to water charities. Okay, so we're going to start the evening now. We're going to go over to Hector.
Well, good evening, folks. We are here this evening celebrating the life of Robert Burns, who became Scotland's national poet. Burns, of course, almost had an eye for the lassies even then, and he joined the Traboltan dancing class, which his father disapproved of very strongly. Also, Burns had taken a notion to Betty Peyton, who was a servant in the farm, and after his father had died, he and Betty got together, and unfortunately Betty became pregnant, and the child was brought in to the house and raised as a Burns. Robert did write a very fine poem about the situation to his daughter, his small daughter then. Burns's mum was interesting because she was a farmer's daughter, Agnes Brown, originally. And she was obviously a very strong and hard-working woman. And from his mother, probably Burns got his good looks and his father's fairly dark complexion. During the bringing up of the children in Alloway, his mother had brought into the house an old relative. And this old lady had a tremendous fund of stories of witches and warlocks and strange happenings around the Ayrshire coast. Burns deciding that perhaps farming is not his favoured occupation. He's becoming well known as a poet, a writer of
comical and serious verse, and he's thinking about perhaps doing something else. However, at this point he's much in love with Jean Armour, the daughter of a local stonemason. However, the stonemason, her father, has decided that Burns is not a good match for his daughter, despite Jean being pregnant with twins who subsequently died. So Burns is rejected by Jean Armour through the influence of Jean's father mainly, and he takes up with a lassie, and that's another story. The song Duncan Gray.
Duncan Gray, come here to woo. Ha ha, the wooing note on a brechtiel nacht when we were foo. Ha ha, the wooing note. Maggie kust her heat for he, looked as glent and Dunkuski. Gat poor Duncan stand away. Ha ha, the wooing note. Duncan flinched and Duncan prayed. Ha ha, the wooing note. Meg was deaf as eels a craig. Ha ha, the wooing note. Duncan sighed with uten and grat his in with blurt and blin. Sparkle open ourlin. Ha ha, the wooing note. Time and chance are but the tide. Ha ha, the wooing note. Slighted love is certain to bide. Ha ha, the wooing note. Shall I like a full cohee for a haughty hezzy? She may get to France for me. Ha ha, the wooing note. How it comes let doctors tell. Ha ha, the wooing note. Meg grew sick as he grew ill. Ha ha, the wooing note. Something in her bosom rings, for relief sigh she brings, and oh her in is spark sick things. Ha ha, the wooing note. Duncan was a lad of grace. Ha ha, the wooing note. Maggie's was a piteous case. Ha ha, the wooing note. Duncan couldn't be her death, swelling pity smoothed his wrath. Now they're crushed and can't they bathe. Ha ha, the wooing note.
Burns was rejected by Jean through the influence of her father, and Burns got pretty fed up about that one because he was very keen on Jean. And he took up with a girl who was working in an estate near Mauchline. She was in the estate house, Mary Campbell. Mary came from Rothsay in west of Scotland. And again, Burns and she formed a strong liaison. And he decided that if he couldn't have Jean, he might well marry Mary. Now, at the same time, Burns had decided that farming was not his thing. He was quite good at it, I suppose, but it didn't suit him, so he looked for another situation.
This is the poem composed in August, originally set to a tune called I Had a Horse, I Had Nae Mare. Today it's best known as Westland Winds. Westland winds and slaughtering guns bring autumn's pleasant weather. The moor caught springs on whirring wings, mine the blooming heather. Wide o'er the plain, the waving grain delights the weary farmer. Moon shines bright when I rove at night to muse upon my charmer. The partridge loves the fruitful fells, the plover loves the mountain. The woodcock haunts the lonely dells, the soaring heron, the fountain. Through lofty groves, the cushat rows, the path of man to shun it. The hazel bush o'erhangs the thrush, the spreading thorn, the linnet. Thus every kind their pleasures find, the savage and the tender. Some social join in lease combine, some solitary wander. Avaunt away the cruel sway, tyrannic man's dominion, the sportsman's joy, the murdering cry, the fluttering gory pinion. But Peggy dear, the evening's clear, thick flies the skimming swallow. The sky is blue, the fields in view, all fading green and yellow. Come, let us stray our gladsome way and view the charms of nature. The rustling corn, the fruited thorn, and every happy creature. We'll gently walk and sweetly talk while the silent moon shines clearly. I'll grasp thy waist and fondly pressed swear how I love thee dearly. No vernal showers to budding flowers, nor autumn to the farmer so dear can be as thou to me, my fair, my lovely charmer.
This is a poem written by Burns in his courting days when he was bachelor, and he met a lassie in the cornfield at the end of the working day, the rigs of barley, and he invites her to walk home with him, which she's happy to do so, and that's what it's about really. The girl in question actually years later married an innkeeper near Cumnock, and in fact was always very pleased to say that she was the girl in the song, The Rigs o' Barley. It was about the Lammas Necht, when corn rigs are bonny, beneath the moon's unclouded licht, I held a watty Annie. The time flew by with scentless heat, twixt the late and early, with small persuasion she agreed to see me through the barley. Corn rigs and barley rigs, corn rigs are bonny, I'll ne'er forget that happy night among the rigs wi' Annie. The sky was blue, the wind was still, the moon was shining clearly, I set her down with right will among the rigs o' barley. I kent her heart was all my ain, I looed her most sincerely, I kissed her over and out again among the rigs o' barley. Corn rigs and barley rigs, corn rigs are bonny, I'll ne'er forget that happy night among the rigs wi' Annie. I locked her in my fond embrace, her heart was beating rarely, a blessing on that happy place among the rigs o' barley. And by the light
of that same star that shone that air so clearly. She I shall bless that happy night among the rigs o' barley. Corn rigs and barley rigs, corn rigs are bonny. She I shall bless that happy night among the rigs wi' Annie. I hae been blithe to comrades dear, I hae been merry drinking, I hae been joyful gathering gear, I hae been happy thinking. But all the pleasures e'er I saw, 3 times doubled fairly, that happy night was worth them all among the rigs o' barley. Corn rigs and barley rigs, corn rigs are bonny. I shall bless that happy night among the rigs wi' Annie. Corn rigs and barley rigs, corn rigs are bonny. I'll never forget that happy night among the rigs o' barley.
The first volume of his poetry, the Kilmarnock edition, was published in Edinburgh. And we find Burns being taken up by society, and many people of well-off people buying his book of poems, mainly in the Scottish dialect. And it was almost a sellout. In fact, initially it was a sellout because they had to reprint. And Burns is invited to come to Edinburgh, and there he becomes the darling of the society. You must invite Robert Burns along. He's an amazing man, self-educated, so-called heaven-taught ploughman. And so he meets a lot of new people, and he also meets, at some stage along the line, Agnes MacLehose. Agnes was the wife of a soldier who was captain, who was serving in the West Indies, as it happens. And Agnes was on her own. She met Burns at an evening soiree, and the two kind of clicked.
I'm about to sing a song that he wrote for Agnes, but before I do, I have to do a happy birthday to Jessie May, whose birthday is on Burns Night. Happy birthday, Jessie May. Yes. My mother's birthday was also on Burns Night, and we always had a party, and I just assumed that everybody had a party for Burns Night, but I discovered later that we didn't. Also, I've watched Hector doing this talk at Byfleet Folk Club, and there are quite a few people from Byfleet Folk Club here this evening watching, and I'd just like to say hello to all of them, my friends there. Good. So in 1791, Burns wrote this song for Agnes. It's the saddest song in the world because she went to Jamaica with her husband. A fond kiss and then we sever. A farewell lasts forever. Deep in heart-wrung tears, I'll pledge thee. Warm sighs and groans, I'll wage thee. Who can say that fortune leaves him while the spark of hope she leaves him? Meany cheerful twinkle lights me. Dark despair alone benights me. my Nancy. For to love, see her, is to love her. Love but her and love forever. Had we never loved so kindly, had we never loved so blindly, never met and never parted, we would ne'er be broken hearted. Fare thee well, my first and foremost. Fare thee well, my best and dearest. Thine be ilk joy and pleasure, peace, enjoyment, love, and treasure. A fond kiss, and then we sever. A farewell, our last forever. Deep in heart, wrung tears, I'll pledge thee. War and sighs and groans, I'll wage thee. Back to Hector.
After several visits to Edinburgh, Burns decided to go back to Mauchline. Financially, he was much better off now, so he was able to give some money to his brother Gilbert to keep the family and the farm going. And strangely enough, Jean Armour's father had decided maybe Burns wasn't so bad after all. He was quite famous now, lots of well-placed friends in life, and in fact he gave permission for Jean to marry Robert, and that they did. Anyway, that's Burns now down in Ellisland, Jean and family living, but he was finding it quite difficult to make ends meet and to keep up with his society friends and his Masonic situations, because that cost him money too. So he applied through a connection whom he'd met in Edinburgh to join the excise, and very soon he was approved as an exciseman and became actually a more senior exciseman after promotion. And of course then he's able to quit the farm, give it back to his friend as far as the lease was concerned, and he moved into a house in Dumfries.
Oh, my love is like a red, red rose that's newly sprung in June, and my love is like a melody that's sweetly played in tune. As fair thou art, my bonny lass, so deep in love am I, and I will love thee still, my dear. seas gone dry, my dear, till all the seas gone dry, and I will love thee still, my dear, till all the seas gone dry, till all the seas gone dry, my dear, and the rocks melt with the sun, and I will love thee still, my dear, till the sands of life shall run. So fairly will my only love, and fairly will a while, and I will come again, my love, though it were 10,000 miles, though it were 10,000 miles, my love, though it were 10,000 miles, and I will come again, my love, though it were 10,000
Hooray! This is a photo of my granddad. He was one of the pipers who led soldiers into battle in the First World War. And my sister has followed in his footsteps and learnt to play the bagpipes and the small pipes. And in a minute, she's going to pipe in from Oxford. She's going to pipe in our Haggis, which has just arrived. Hector is going to read the address to the Haggis. It's very difficult to understand. Very few people will. Douglas, my cousin, he's watching, he will understand and will no doubt be able to translate for all of us. But if you want a translation, I've put one on Facebook, which you can follow as it's happening. Okay?
In this poem, Burns is extolling the virtues of the haggis, claiming its superiority to any other dish ever invented, stews and stuff that splashes about in luggies or pails. Anyway, he claims that it's the food of Scotland, and in fact it can often be, not just for Burns suppers. It's arrived, been piped in, which is tradition. Fair fa, your honest sonsy face, great chieftain o' the puddin' race, upin them all ye tak your place, pench, tripe, or firm? Well are you worthy of grace as long as my arm. The groaning trencher there you fill, your herd is like a distant hill. Your pin would help to mend a mill in time o' need, whilst through your pores the dews distil like amber bead. His knife, see rustic labour dicht, then cut you up with ready slicht, trenching your gushing entrails bricht like ony ditch. Then, oh, what a glorious sicht, warm, reeking, rich. Then horn for horn, they stretch and they strive, deal tuck the hindmost on they drive, till all their wheel swalt kites alive are bent like drums. And the all good man, maist like to rive, bethankit hums, is there, what are his French ragout, or fricassee that would stow a sou, or olio that would make him spew with perfect scunner, looks doon with sneering and scorn for view on sick a dinner. Pear devil, see him o'er his trash, his feckless, his withered rash, his spinel shank, a good whiplash, his neve, a knit, through bloody flood and field to dash, oh, how unfit. But mark the rustic, Haggis fed, the trembling earth resounds his tread, clapping his whirling evil blade, he'll mak it whistle, and legs and arms and heads he'll sned like tops o' thistle. Ye powers, o mak mankind your care, and dish him out his bill o' fare. All Scotland wants nae skinking ware that jops and luggies. But if you want a grateful prayer, gie her a haggis. The toast is the haggis. Sláinte.
And for my sister, who definitely has her haggis because she sent a picture of it, here is the Selkirk Grace, which my uncle, who was called Bob, used to say at every meal when I was little. Some hae meat and canna eat, and some would eat who want it. But we have meat and we can eat, so let the Lord be thanked.
Well, this is Robbie having a go at the Jacobites. The song is Ye Jacobites by Name. Ye Jacobites by name, give an ear, give an ear. Ye Jacobites by name, give an ear. Ye Jacobites by name, your faults I will proclaim, your doctrines I'm unblame. You shall hear, you shall hear, your doctrines I'm unblame. You shall hear. What is right and what is wrong, by the law, by the law. What is right and what is wrong, by the law. What is right and what is wrong, a short sword or a long, a weak arm or a strong, for to draw, for to draw, a weak arm or a strong, for to draw. Ye Jacobites by name, give an ear, give an ear. Ye Jacobites by name, give an ear. Ye Jacobites by name, your faults I will proclaim, your doctrines I'm unblame. You shall hear, you shall hear, your doctrines I'm unblame. You shall hear. What makes heroic strife, famed afar, famed afar? What makes heroic strife, famed afar? What makes heroic strife to whet assassins and knife, or blight a parent's life with bloody war, bloody war? up like the parents' life we bloody war. Ye Jacobites by name, give an ear, give an ear. Jacobites by name, give an ear. Ye Jacobites by name, your faults I will proclaim, your doctrines I will blame. You shall hear, you shall hear, your doctrines I mun blame, you shall hear. So let your schemes alone in the state, in the state. Let your schemes alone in the state. So let your schemes alone, adore the rising sun, and leave a man undone to his fate, to his fate, and leave a man undone till his fate. Ye Jacobites by name, give an ear, give an ear. Jacobites by name, give an ear. Ye Jacobites by name, your faults I will proclaim, your doctrines I mun blame. You shall hear, you shall hear, your doctrines I mun blame, you shall hear.
Whilst living in Ellisland Farm, Burns wrote some of his best poetry, including The Quarter Saturday Night, The Nicht, Tam O'Shanter, and several others. But then, having gone to be an exciseman, perhaps his time was less available. He was responsible for looking after the excise duties throughout a very large area down Dumfriesshire and Galloway. And that meant riding many miles in all kinds of weathers every week. And that was beginning to have an effect on his health. He also met several other ladies on his routes around, and he dedicated poetry to them. His wife said many years later, "Our Rabbi always wanted 2 wives." It doesn't mean he was having affairs with them all, but he needed to be somewhat cerebrally in love to write his best poetry. But that was Rabbi. So Burns politically could be quite active. He seemed to support the family, the royal family. At the same time, he had strong views about people in their class and their position in life. A man's a man, for all that, is a very good example.
I love Ye Jacobites by Name. I think it's a brilliant song, really, really relevant today. I've been joined on the stage by John Beetham, and we are going to sing Green Grow the Rashes O, and you can join in the chorus. This is, by the way, I sing this because I think this is Burns's most feminist song. It's about women. It's naught but care on every hand, in every hour that passes. Oh, what signifies the life of man? Were not for the laid lasses, oh. Spent among the lasses, oh. The warlike race may riches chase, and riches they may fly them all. When at last they catch them fast, their hearts cannot enjoy them all. Green grow the rashes, oh. Sweet solitaire I spent among the lasses, oh. spent among the lasses, oh. And you seduce, you sneer at this, you naught but senseless asses, oh. Wisest worm man the world ever knew, surely loved the lasses, oh. Green grow the rashes, oh. Green grow the rashes, oh. Sweet as solitaire I spent among the lasses, oh. For nature holds the lovely dears, her finest work she classes, oh. Her apprenticed hand she tried on man, and then she made the lasses, oh. Green grow the rashes, oh. Green grow the rashes, oh. Sweet as solitaire I spent among the lasses, oh. Green grow the rashes, oh. Green grow the rashes, oh. Sweet as solitaire I spent among the lasses.
He didn't write music, Burns, we must remember. He could scrape a tune on a fiddle, I believe, but overall he was not a musician as such. His wife Jean had a good ear, but mostly Burns was getting sent old tunes by these producers, these publishers, and he would rewrite the lyrics or add lyrics if where none existed. So we owe a great debt of gratitude to Robert Burns for preserving many tunes which might well have been lost otherwise. It's also a case that in the recent years the folk scene in Scotland in particular discovered Burns, because for a long time Burns' poetry and songs were pretty seen as kind of drawing room material, but of course that isn't the case and wasn't the case then either. And now I think every folk singer in Scotland will have a tune or two or a song or two of Burns to sing. I mentioned earlier he was becoming ill. In fact, in his last year he couldn't work at all, and he was very concerned about his situation with the family. The salary had been reduced to 50%, and in his final weeks he was advised to go and bathe in the waters of the Solway, at least the waters of the Brow Well, which is adjacent to the Solway. It's a mineral spring, very cold, and certainly very cold in June. He was also being nursed at home by the daughter of a family friend. And I'm singing later the song Wert Thou in the Cold Blast. And this is Burns on his deathbed, still writing poetry about a pretty girl. And we have to admire his spirit there. But he was at this stage sending letters out to connections and saying, can you perhaps send a fiver or two? He was very concerned about how the family would survive afterwards. In fact, after his death, there was a huge turnout in Dumfries. There was a national collection, and that collection enabled the family to live comfortably thereafter. He needn't have worried about it, but he was concerned that he wasn't earning at the time. So we have Burns' funeral in Dumfries, and he died on the 21st of July 1796, so he was just 37 years old, produced volumes, 400 or so, poetry and songs. And we have to say that over the world this week, his birth is being celebrated by pretty well millions of people in various societies and clubs and so on. Although this year, of course, they won't have any, so I retract that one. But normally he would have been celebrated in great numbers.
In the last few weeks of his life, Burns was actually bedridden, suffering from endocarditis, and was being nursed by the daughter of a family friend. But even in his last illness, he hadn't lost his eye for a pretty girl. And he wrote this poem for her and set it to a tune which she said was her favourite. There we go. He had been invited and instructed, in fact, by his doctor to go and bathe in the waters of the Solway, in fact, the Brow Well, a mineral spring just outside Dumfries. If any of you have ever put a toe in the water in the west coast in June, July, you find it's not very warm, and certainly the Brow Well wouldn't be warm. It may well have finished him off, who knows. So this is the song, "O Wert Thou in the Cold Blast." O wert thou in the cold blast on yonder lea, on yonder lea, my plaidie the angry hairs, I'd shelter thee, I'd shelter thee, and did misfortune's bitter storms around thee blow, thy bield would be my bosom to share it all, to share it all. And were I in the wildest wastes, say black and bare, say black and bare, with desert were a paradise, if thou wert there, if thou wert there. And were I monarch of the globe, with thee to reign, the brightest jewel in all my crown would be my queen, would be my queen. Oh, wert thou in the cold blast on yonder lea, on yonder lea, my plaidie to the angry heart, I'd shelter thee, I'd shelter thee, and did misfortune's bitter storms around thee blow, my bield would be my bosom to share it all, to share it all. Well, this is the older version of Auld Lang Syne. It's been through quite a few changes in its long life. Auld Lang Syne is a old long since, or long ago. It's a phrase that's been used by other poets, and Burns picked it up to use it. He claimed that he heard the song but from an old man, but there's some doubt about that. There's a thought that in fact he probably wrote it himself. Anyway, it's well known to be sung at the end of the evening to a different tune from this, but this is the old one. Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind, should old acquaintance be forgot and Auld Lang Syne, for old lang syne, my Joe, for auld lang syne. We'll tak a cup o' kindness yet, for auld lang syne. And surely you'll be your pint stoop, and surely I'll be mine. We'll tak a cup o' kindness yet, for auld lang syne. For auld lang syne, my Joe, for auld lang syne. We'll tak a cup o' kindness yet, for auld lang syne. We twa here ran about the braes, and put the gowans fine, but we wandered mony a weary foot sin auld lang syne. For auld lang syne, my Joe, for auld lang syne. We'll tak a cup o' kindness yet, for auld lang syne. We twa he pedalled in the bun, frae morning sun till dine, but seas atween us great he roared sin auld lang syne. For auld lang syne, my Joe, for auld lang syne. We'll tak a cup o' kindness yet, for auld lang syne. So here's a hon, my trusty fere, and gie's a hon o' thine. We'll tak a recht yet wally wacht, for auld lang syne. For auld lang syne, my Joe, for auld lang syne. We'll tak a cup o' kindness yet, for auld lang syne.
We're about to toast to the immortal bard. So if you would like to charge your glasses, please. We can't, because we're working here, so we've got our cups of tea here ready, even though there's a tantalising bottle of whiskey in the middle of the room. We've got our cups of tea, so this is us. Brilliant. And is Hector going to actually do the toast?
He is. Oh, he is.
Yeah.
Oh, he is.
Great. We're ready, Hector. We're ready for you.
Well, at the end of the evening, we have a final toast to make. And that toast is to the immortal memory of Robert Burns. Sláinte.
Raffle. Well, slange indeed, and thank you, Hector. That was wonderful. It was very different for us because we didn't have the applause like we normally do, which is a shame. Way. Okay. Right, for the raffle, for the CD. Oh, Tobiah, you've won the CD. Tobiah, can you message me with an address, please, to send it to? Okay. And for the who gives a crap toilet roll, we have have, who's this? Di Rutherford. Hooray! Di Rutherford, could you please message me and with an address that I can send it to and I can be ritually humiliated in the post office again?
We have an email address.
Oh, I have your email address. You don't need to. Thank you. I will email you. All right. Email the toilet roll, yes. Yeah, well, a good trick if you can do it. Brilliant. Okay, Tom Dowding, I'm glad you enjoyed your haggis. Paul, I hope you found your charger. And Sue Graves, yay, lovely to see you. That's great. Well, we just about got away with it, didn't we? It was really, really difficult. And I have to say, I have to thank Roger again for all the work he put into it. Yeah, thank you. And also Sandra for putting up with us, what we inflicted on him. I'm sorry about that, Sandra. Yeah. And can we also thank Phil and John and Chris and Jax, who's been working hard in the background. Yeah, thank you very much, all of you. And thank you for everybody out there who supported live-ish music and watching us week after week. And Sue, you will get to hear my sister playing the bagpipes briefly again, because she's going to play in a minute. Next week, we have John Watterson, who will be brilliant. Okay, I hope to see you then. Thank you very much for watching. Chris and I are off to eat that haggis, and we'll see you next week. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.